You are drowning in debt, and the strangest part is, you probably don't feel like you're drowning. You feel normal. You feel like everyone around you is in the same situation, and in a way, you're right. But that's exactly the problem. Think about two people. Same city. Same age. Both earn around $60,000 a year. One of them drives a newer car, lives in a nicer apartment, goes out on weekends, takes a vacation every summer. The other one drives something older, cooks at home most nights, doesn't post much on social media. 5 years later, the first person has $4,000 saved. The second person has $62,000. Same income. Completely different financial reality. And here's what nobody talks about: the first person feels fine. They feel like they're living well. They don't feel like they're losing. But they are. You probably believe that debt is just part of modern life. That everyone has a car payment. That student loans are unavoidable. That credit cards are just tools as long as you're careful. That you'll catch up later when you earn more, when things settle down, when the timing is better. And the financial industry, the banks, the marketing around you, they all quietly agree with that belief because it benefits them. But the data tells a different story. The average American household carries over $90,000 in total debt. Credit cards, auto loans, student loans, mortgages, and a significant portion of that debt is not from emergencies. It's from choices that felt completely reasonable at the time. A slightly better car than you needed. A subscription you forgot to cancel. A vacation you financed. A phone upgrade you didn't wait for. The debt didn't arrive in one dramatic moment. It accumulated slowly, invisibly, one comfortable decision at a time. Here's something worth sitting with. A household earning $50,000 a year. That saves 20% to build more long-term wealth. Then a household earning $90,000 a year that saves 3%. Not because of investment genius. Not because of luck. Simply because of the gap between what comes in and what stays. Studies on household financial behavior consistently show that savings rate is a stronger predictor of wealth accumulation than income level. People in the top income quartile, who spend aggressively, frequently end up with less net worth than people in middle income brackets who spend with discipline. Read that again. Earning more does not fix the problem if the behavior doesn't change. Because more income without a change in behavior usually just means more spending. Bigger car, bigger apartment, bigger lifestyle. Same gap. Sometimes a wider one. This is not a math problem. It's a behavior problem. And the behavior is almost always invisible to the person living it. There's a name for what's happening to you. Call it lifestyle debt drift. It works like this. Your income rises and your expenses rise with it automatically, almost without decision. You don't sit down and choose to spend more. It just happens. A raise arrives and within 6 months, you've adjusted your life to consume it entirely. A promotion comes through and suddenly the old apartment feels a little too small. The old car feels a little too old. The old habits feel a little too modest for who you're becoming. Lifestyle debt drift doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like progress. That's why you don't catch it. And the reason it drains you silently is because it never shows up as a single large decision. It shows up as 100 small ones, each one justifiable. Each one reasonable in isolation. But together they create a life where money flows through you instead of accumulating around you. Now, here's the part that's harder to talk about. The reason lifestyle debt drift works so effectively is because it's not really about money. It's about identity. It's about belonging. It's about what it means to you to look like you're doing well. There's a part of the human brain that is wired for social comparison. Not as a flaw, but as a survival mechanism. For most of human history, falling behind the group meant danger. Being seen as lower status carried real consequences. That wiring doesn't disappear because you live in a modern economy. It just redirects. So when your colleague drives a new car, something shifts in you. Not envy exactly. More like a quiet signal. A recalibration of what's normal, what's acceptable, what you deserve. And the market knows this. Every luxury brand, every car commercial, every Instagram feed is designed to move that baseline. To make yesterday's luxury feel like today's standard. To make restraint feel like deprivation. You don't decide to feel that way. It happens. And then your financial decisions follow the feeling, not the logic. Dopamine does the rest. The purchase feels good. The arrival feels good. The newness feels good. And by the time the feeling fades, you've already committed to the payment. Here's the paradox that almost nobody confronts directly. The people who look the most financially successful are frequently the least financially free. High income, impressive lifestyle, and almost no margin. No savings. No optionality. One job loss away from real crisis. One medical bill away from debt that takes years to recover from. Meanwhile, the people quietly building wealth rarely look the part. They drive reasonable cars. They live in houses they could actually afford 10 years ago. They don't signal prosperity because they're too busy building it. Consumption is visible. Accumulation is not. A high income with low savings is just an expensive treadmill. You run faster, but you stay in the same place. And the faster you run, the harder it becomes to imagine slowing down. The question worth asking is not, do I look financially stable? The question is, if my income stopped tomorrow, how long could I maintain my life without borrowing? For most people, the honest answer is somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months. That's not stability. That's a performance of stability. The mathematics here are not complicated, but they are impossible to ignore once you see them. 2 people, both earn $65,000 a year. Person 1 saves 5%, about $270 a month. Person 2 saves 25%, about $1,350 a month. Both invest consistently for 20 years at an average annual return of 7%. Person 1 ends with approximately $140,000. Person 2 ends with approximately $700,000. Same income, same timeline, same market. The only variable is what percentage of the income was protected from consumption. The difference is not discipline in the motivational sense. It's structure. Person 2 built a system where saving happened automatically, before the money was available to spend. The behavior wasn't heroic. It was architectural. So what does a different architecture look like? Here are the principles that actually hold. Pay yourself before the money exists. The moment income arrives, a fixed percentage moves automatically to savings or investment. Not what's left. What's first? This single rule overrides most other financial behaviors. Treat your savings rate as non-negotiable. Your rent is non-negotiable. Your car payment is non-negotiable. Your savings rate should carry the same weight. Not a goal, a commitment. Never expand your lifestyle to match a raise. When income increases, keep expenses flat for at least 12 months. Redirect the difference entirely. 1 year of discipline compounds into decades of optionality. Audit every recurring expense annually. Subscriptions. Insurance. Services. Most people are paying for things they no longer use or value. These are not small amounts over time. They are thousands of dollars redirected toward nothing. Delay major purchases by 30 days minimum. Not forever. Just 30 days. Most urgent purchases stop feeling urgent. The ones that still feel necessary after a month are worth examining more carefully. Distinguish between debt that builds and debt that drains. A mortgage on a property you can reasonably afford can be a tool. A car loan on a vehicle you stretch to buy is almost always a liability dressed as an asset. Know which category every debt falls into. Build a margin before you build a lifestyle. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. Liquid, untouched, not invested, not leveraged. Just available. This is not a return strategy. It is a stability strategy. Without it, every financial decision is made under invisible pressure. Never make a financial decision in an emotional state. Tired, excited, frustrated, celebratory. These are all states where the brain is optimizing for feeling, not for long-term outcome. Build a rule that any purchase above a certain threshold requires at least 1 night between the impulse and the decision. If any of this landed, it's not because the ideas are complicated. It's because somewhere in the logic, you recognize your own pattern. That recognition is rare. Most people read something like this and think about someone else they know. If you thought about yourself, you're already thinking differently than most people around you. This channel exists for people who are done with the performance of financial wellness and are ready to build the actual thing. Not through hacks, not through shortcuts, through clarity about how money actually works and how human behavior gets in the way. If that's the conversation you want to keep having, stay here. Subscribe. Not because the algorithm needs it, but because the environment you consume shapes the decisions you make, and the decisions you make shape the life you build. Money, at its core, is not about wealth in the abstract. It's about options. The option to leave a job that's diminishing you. The option to help someone you love without hesitation. The option to change direction without catastrophe. Debt removes options. Savings create them. And the moment you start measuring your financial life not by what you have, but by how free you are to choose, everything changes. Not dramatically, not overnight, but permanently.